Okay, thank you so much to Justin and Rohit for that session on thought leadership. That was phenomenal. And now we are on to session 3, which is about leveraging community as a distribution moat. For this, our next speaker is someone who literally wrote the book on building communities, Laís De Oliveira, author of Hacking Communities and head of North America at Time Left. Building on what we've been talking about when it comes to distribution, instead of just shouting louder into crowded channels, Laís is going to show us how to build something far more valuable, a community that becomes your competitive moat. Having built thriving communities for everyone from government agencies to startups alike, she knows exactly what it takes to turn your users into advocates. Laís, thank you so much for being here with us today. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, George. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Pallavi, for inviting me. We met a while ago when I was running the On Deck Community Builders Fellowship for On Deck. And now so many years have passed, and I think I could already write another book. And I would love to do that, updating my existing one. So many of the thoughts I'll be sharing with you guys today are really evolutions of what I've learned in my own career, and also by running the On Deck Community Builders Fellowship and helping many other community builders in the world as a consultant before joining Time Left as head of North America. And currently, my job is defeating loneliness one day at a time all over the world. And I'd love to also explore opportunities there. So many of the things I'm sharing here is more focused on B2B. And I'll be trying to share more examples focused on B2B, which is, I assume, what most of you guys are working with. So if you have the opportunity, please share in the chat just a little bit more about like a one-liner of what you're working on, because that would help me slowly maybe read through it and understand who you're targeting and maybe target a little bit better this presentation to you. But no worries if not, I will still have time for questions, and then you can ask me more specifics that can help your business. So George, thank you for laying out the topic of my presentation today. And I hope you all can see my slides. Can I have it just a quick thumbs up, George? Pallavi, if you
Yep.
see it?
Everyone we can see, and that's great.
Sweet. Awesome. So this agenda is divided in 3 parts. First, community as a business, to talk about how to activate your users and customers as your ambassadors and advocates, which is like I'm selling the dream here, right? To have people speaking on your behalf and speaking good things about your business. First, we have to understand what community is and its foundations as a business core asset. Then we're going to talk about activating ambassadorship and advocacy through journey creations. And finally, how to make it a system, how to make it last, and how to make it sustainable. Let's get to it. So, first and foremost, this is my book. I have released it in Portuguese and English so far for those who are interested and want to check it out. Once again, I could already write a new book. So, if you want to learn more about community, more specifics to your business, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn after this. First and foremost, I'm adapting something that I shared in my book based on a conversation with a friend of mine called Hugh Mason, who has led one of the top accelerators of startups in Southeast Asia and has helped many businesses succeed. And he shared that before, companies owned brands and communicated them through static channels before you could control your brand. Today, people will talk about your brand everywhere. Either you want it, either you like it or not. And you can choose to enter that conversation, but you cannot control it. So, in a very social world, this saying from Jeff Bezos is even more applicable, that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. So today is even more important than ever, that you are able to empower and trust people to speak on your behalf. In other words, brands are conversations. So this is why this conversation matters. And for those of you who maybe need to leave early or can't keep up with the entire conversation, FYI, the bottom line of everything is like, how can I turn users and customers into legitimate advocates and ambassadors for my business? The TLDR is have organizational clarity about your company's mission and identity. 2, define contribution and what's the job to be done. How can people help your business grow? 3, carve a path for them to contribute, to help people do that thing you define as contributions. 4, bring them closer to you, to your team as they contribute. And finally, reward, reiterate, and repeat. So that's the TLDR for everybody. Hoping you can still, yes, you can still see my slide. That's good. All right, so let's talk about part one of the agenda, community foundations. And at any moment, feel free to ask questions in the chat, and I can make myself available here as well if you have a pressing question in the middle of the presentation. I'm going to also ask George and Pallavi if anything, if there's anyone with an urgent question, I can also just try to tackle it right away. There we go. So, first of all, community is this kind of cute word that has become more and more popular after 2020, after the pandemic. And it's very important for us to define what it means for business. And I'm going to spend some time doing this. It must be an essential part of your value creation engine rather than a feature. Many people, many businesses want community as that thing that you have. You open a discussion group, you open a circle or mining networks or whatever it is, chat, and you hope people interact and have fun and speak good things about our business. Community must be something that is directly in line with your core value proposition. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Let me break this down. First, the 5 P's of community. And again, I use the 5P thing because I think it makes it easy for people to memorize it. But you can call this each of these words differently, if you will. But the 5 P's are people with a purpose, sharing a platform, having programming to bring them together consistently, and finally, most importantly, participating. And participating is at the core of our conversation today. So when community is, I think I jumped a slide. Yes, I did. So here's the thing. Let's break this down into my community formula, which brings all those 5 P's together. Communities are identified as having identity, and it's part of your job to create that. Identity is your mission, your purpose. What do your people identify as? What makes them feel as part of one tribe? What makes them wear your t shirt? Identity is about your voice, is about your visuals, but it's also about your core values. It's about what people believe in, it's about what you stand for, and what makes people stand up with you and for you. Connectedness is about it not being an audience relationship. It's not about a one to many conversation. It's a conversation that goes in every direction. So it's the dialogue, it's a multi dialogue, it's not just a monologue from you to others like it used to be in the past. So connectedness is about creating platform and programming to create interactions amongst your people, helping them help each other. So value is not created from your kitchen to them. Your users are part of creating value to each other in line with their core value proposition. Finally, that leads to growth. And growth is that idea of the word of mouth in the context of our conversation today. Advocacy, ambassadorship, people speaking good things on your behalf, people referring others. It's all part of participation, which is a consequence of identity and connectedness, which are the things you have to create. So, growth is a consequence when community is a key asset. So pretty much identity is made of your people, who they are, how do they relate to each other. For example, you're targeting small and medium-sized businesses that are on site and they're struggling with attracting new users after the pandemic, or you're targeting women-owned businesses. All that you're targeting creates a sense of identity in potential amongst your customers, but it's your job to bring them together, say, hey, we are here together to make the world more sustainable, to whatever cause it is that you're helping your business achieve. Make this their mode, make this their purpose. Platform programming, how do you bring them together to make them feel that they belong? Community, and I'm going to talk more about that throughout this presentation. It's about making enough excuses for people to bump into each other recurringly enough until they feel like they've known each other. That leads to participation, a sense that I have a sense of ownership over this brand. I'm not just a customer, I'm in touch with the team, I'm in touch with other users, I'm part of creating value, and I create value in line with this business's value proposition. So participation is how people fulfill their shared purpose. It's pretty much how they contribute to delivering your value. And platform and programming, events, activities, content, everything else is more like excuses to drive participation. The reason I'm saying this and breaking this down, and I'm sorry if I'm sounding like too detailed and not getting yet to the meat of this conversation, it's because I want to establish very clearly that the events, the content creation, all the fluff that we often see as community is really more like the way to get to the core of what we want, which is participation. So, knowing that ambassadorship and advocacy are only forms of participation. There's multiple ways how people can do that. If you are Waze, your users can participate by being local editors, beta testers. If you are Duolingo, your users can participate by creating courses. If you are a B2B marketing startup, your users can help each other by maybe helping them define, answer each other's questions around marketing or become better marketers. If you are a sales CRM, your users, for example, one of the big sales CRM out there had one of their community managers as part of ODCB, and their community strategy was not just in helping other sales managers become better at using their CRM tool, it was about helping them become better as salespeople. So, how can your business, which is a sales CRM with the purpose of helping people sell more, help those people sell more beyond the tool? Help them become better salesperson, help them develop a better pitch. So you become a holistic solution for them, not just a tool. So that's how an example of how you can leverage community, how you can get people to help each other achieve the purpose they had when they signed up for your business. So let's get into this deeper and deeper. Now we're going to be talking about understanding contribution and defining your community journey design, which is pretty much how to get people from new users into people who will start creating value. I hope you guys are still with me. I miss the seeing people's faces from in-person sessions. So by now I'm like 1/3 through my conversation. I'd love to just get a little show of hands, but just let me know if you have any questions. I want to make sure you guys are following and it's making sense for everyone. Thank you. Okay. So for a community to generate tangible outcomes, again, the way people act must be directly related to the core value and value proposition of your organization. So it's like sometimes you're like, oh, we are that. I'm going to take the example of the sales CRM again. Like, oh, we are a sales CRM business and we are hosting ice cream parties to our business owners. And that's kind of like cool. Thank you for the ice cream, but like, how does that help me achieve my purpose? When I signed up for your CRM, I wanted to basically optimize my sales. I wanted to make my SDR team perform better. How are you helping me do that? So if you host instead a workshop on how to optimize your SDR team and you offer ice cream as a part of the workshop as like an Easter egg, as an experiential plus, awesome. Then you're creating community with a purpose. So moving forward, let's look at a general business model. So for those who are not familiar, this is called the business model canvas. And you can Google it and use it for your own. And for me, it is an easy way to paint a picture of a business in one page. Whenever I'm starting a new business, I oftentimes use this to brainstorm, and in like 90 seconds, I would have a quick, fast and dirty perspective of, is this a good business idea or not? Where should I tweak it? So that's the business model canvas for you. And I'm going to use it to explain where community is placed in a business. So on the right side of the canvas, you have customer segments, channels, and customer relationships, and half of the value proposition. And of course, it all ends up in revenue streams. It all drives your revenue. The customers you attract, your segments, who you build relationships with, and you attract them through specific channels. That all is part of the right side of your canvas. And we usually worldwide tag it under marketing and branding. On the left side of your canvas, you have creating and delivering value. That would include manufacturing if you're dealing with physical goods. That would include service creation, like you're training your team of customer support or training your team of professional coaches, whatever that you're doing. This is where the heavy bulk of your operation lies, your machinery, humans, everything. So that comprises your key partners, key activities you have to do to deliver value, your key resources, and of course, that ends up in costs. That defines your cost structures. So pretty basic, that's the business model canvas. The way you see community is that it interchangeably needs to communicate with both. So it's about first bringing people from the right side of your canvas, they are customers, and then you attract them through the specific channels, but then they gain value from your business and they become part of your value creation engine. So using another example here, let's suppose that you are a leadership coaching business and you help people develop themselves as better leaders, and your goal is that your customer success, meaning become people getting a promotion, people becoming better leaders. The more people walk into your product and you deliver your brand promise and they become better leader themselves, they can eventually become part of your community as helping others do the same, helping others follow that journey and achieve that success that they did by walking the right path. So it's about you carving a path for your users to go from customers to value creators to influencers within your business. Hoping that makes sense. So it's about bringing your people from the right side to the left side. And what that means in practice, and I'm going to bring this concept of the job should be done by Clayton Christensen. For those who are not familiar with it, super relevant. I really recommend you watch, maybe you just Google the milkshake job to be done, Clayton Christensen, I like his name is written here, and he's going to explain how they pretty much consulted for one of the world's largest F&B brand to help them better improve their product. And what they understood is that products and services are pretty much things we hire to get a job done. When you hire, in that example, a milkshake, you're looking for a job for that milkshake to be performing something, to be doing a job for you. And in the specific example that he gives, it's about a physical product. That milkshake is doing more than just filling up their bellies. It's giving them something to hold, something to do while clients were driving many miles and many hours towards their work. And other things that competed with a milkshake would be a donut, but it did bad. It did a worse job than a milkshake because it would get people's hands dirty, and a croissant that would get their laps all flaky and messy. So what I'm saying here is that the essence of the job should be done theory is that people hire products or service to do a job. And if that product or service doesn't do enough good of a job, we hire someone else. So that's a theory of jobs should be done. So people, when they hire your business, they are looking for you for that product or that service to do a job for them. And in this case, what I am telling you is that the work of activating community is in a way the work of getting people as part, getting your users, getting your customers as part of delivering that job. I'm going to give you a quick example, part of like time left itself, which is very relevant to us in terms of like we're targeting individuals primarily. And our goal is to make people feel at home, is to make people go from strangers into friends. How can our users help us achieve our mission? So we have top users, and part of what we do is bring them closer to our team as people who are good at welcoming others, at making others feel at home. And we appreciate our users as our advocates, as our ambassadors, but mostly for helping others feel less awkward, feel less lonely, feel less socially isolated. So our users who attend a lot of our dinners, they become top users and they become people who help others feel more at home. So what I'm telling is that like brand clarity, when you understand your value proposition, how can you bring your users from from the right side of your canvas as consumers to the left side of your canvas in helping you do the job you're set out to do, helping you deliver value. Once again, lots of heavy concepts here, the theory of jobs, which I poorly explained. You should totally watch the YouTube video after. But what I'm saying here, I hope it's clear, is how can you get your people involved in delivering your value proposition? So getting to the meat of it, activating ambassadorship and advocacy, which is everyone's dream, right? It's like getting your users to be speaking on your behalf, getting them to refer, getting them to sell for you. So I'm going to share 3 frameworks for us to activate both. And of course, there are multiple ways your users can contribute. Many companies are leveraging users and customers to help each other solving questions, customer support, community as engagement, community as community members creating events internally, education. So there's multiple ways, but here I'm emphasizing on distribution as distribution mode. So advocacy and ambassadorship. Moving forward, um, the first framework I'd like to talk about today is interaction design. Once again, community is about making excuses for people to get together. This is another quote from the same friend I've mentioned before, who managed one of the largest startup accelerators in Southeast Asia. And this guy just has amazing quotes about community, and I quote him like twice in my book. So he said, this one is a very good one, very timely, that community is like the turkey in the Thanksgiving dinner, that people get together to eat the turkey, but what really matters are the conversations around the table. So, by the way, next week is Thanksgiving in the United States, so this is super relevant right now. And as a business, the more you have excuses to bring people together, the more you over time build a sense of identity through connectedness. And I divide that in three stages, which are attraction, engagement, and commitment. I use a metaphor of lighthouse, port, and city, which is people are lost in the world in a sea of opportunities. They're trying to find a solution for something. They're likely Googling it. They're likely asking a friend. In that moment, your goal is to be a lighthouse. So people come for the first time to a lighthouse because they see it and they think that's hope. That's maybe a source of I'm hungry and I'm starving. I see a lighthouse. I'm in the middle of the ocean. I see hope. I walk towards there. Then your goal is to become a port. People go to you for the first time and maybe they go for one reason, like they see your ad, they see an event you hosted, or someone tells them about your product, or they find you on Google because you have very good SEO. Hope you do. And if not, like whatever way they find out about you, they come for the first time, and then your job is to keep them coming back. That's when you become a port. So maybe they came to you at first because of an ad, and they stayed because wow, they have very good onboarding. Wow, they have other person here who actually already helped me answer this question right away. Wow, that was very easy to sign up and get started. Whatever reason it is, keep them coming back. I'll talk more about examples, and then you're going to become a city. After in recurring interactions with that port, people say, you know what? I freaking love this place. I came here because I was hungry and I went to this restaurant. Then I found there was a bar and then I made a friend. I came back the other week. I met that person again and then they introduced me to their friend. Suddenly I was coming back every month. You know what? I'm going to buy a house here and become a real estate developer, whatever. I'm making fun of my own analogy here and going very deep into this. But the idea is that you want to get people committed. And commitment, it's about you want to get them to invest in your land, in your space. Let's dive deeper into more realistically. What does that mean? The first 21 days are crucial to commitment. And I'm making this first 21 days up more based on my own experience, but I've heard many people say that, and there are a lot of studies out there with more data-driven number of days, but to, to exemplify how in different industries onboarding matters, or the first could be the first 10 days, depending on your business and industry. But what I'm saying here is that the first impression matters. So as people join, you want them to feel warmly welcomed. The first time they use, you want to have a seamless experience for sign up. You want to have maybe an incentive for them to try something out. And different businesses have different thresholds of usage. Maybe you want to have them using, if it's, for example, an experience like ours, time left. We want people to come to dinner maybe over twice, because after they come once, they come a second time, they come a third time, they will have a different experience. And that's more likely to make sure that they are going to keep using us for different reasons for a longer period of time. Maybe if you're talking about a CRM, you want people to use it for a full month, because you want people to fully experience how 1 month of usage of your CRM will completely change their business around. So depending on what it is, we want that to get over that quick bump of first commitment, and onboarding is crucial. Second, keep them coming back. That's when you get to that port stage. Um, Deliver value and give them reasons to return. That could be gamification. I don't love gamification because of how that word has been widespread and meaning many things, but what I mean here is more like give them levels to get over, give them incentives to achieve, etc. Consistent programming, some people do this like co-working spaces. They bring people back through events. They have recurring activities, workshops hosted by their own members, where people keep coming back for an event, but then they go and meet someone else and they may stay for their relationships, but they came for the party, stayed for the people. Loyalty perks, etc. Finally, make them a part of it. At a commitment stage, you want to give people a title. You want to give them more responsibility. You want to give them ownership. That's when they become an ambassador. So let's dive deeper into it. This is very, very much like building relationships, like dating even. So I'll tell you more about that in a second. But first, I want you to understand and remember, the more people get involved, the more opportunities they find to contribute. And they should perceive that each time they contribute, they gain value from that contribution. It's not that they are giving something, they perceive the more they give, the more they get, because their contribution is tied to their success. So your customer success journey should be very much in parallel with your customer contribution journey. The more successful, the more they contribute. The more they contribute, the more successful. That's very important. Your user journey for success, your customer success journey, should be aligned with your community contribution journey. Okay, so let me give examples that are very concrete. At the lighthouse stage, you do not want to overwhelm people. You don't want people to do a lot. They like, hey, I just met you and this is crazy, but be my ambassador. No, you're insane. Like, I just met you. Let me just complete my onboarding. Maybe I'll respond to a few interactions and maybe I'll become an active customer. Very simple tasks. Just give value first. Then this person likes it, became an active customer. I used your solution for a month and it honestly changed my life. I want to keep doing it. Then maybe they start participating in programming. This is all optional examples, guys. Nothing here is set in stone. Maybe they start joining workshops and events. Maybe they start driving interactions, like there is a forum and they start answering questions to people or asking questions. Maybe they start organizing events and they want to speak about their knowledge and expertise in how to sell more effectively. Maybe they become a passionate advocate, and a passionate advocate doesn't have a title. That person is talking about your business because they love it. They start referring your solution to their network and friends, because maybe you gave them a promo code the moment they become an active member, and that's an easy low lift thing. You have a 20% off as a member, and that's okay to do, but you're not forcing them to do it. They're doing it because they want to, and they become a top customer. Then we get deep, and I want to say most businesses stay here, and that's fine, and they call this community, and that's fine. It's community, but like, I want you to go and at least think about a layer deeper. I want you to think about getting them into this core contributor stage where they become contributors, where they become owners, kind of. They have a sense of ownership. They become committed, and that's when you start getting special meetings and events. That's when you teach them and get to speak your brand's language. They might even get into inner information. That's when they become an ambassador. That's when they become a featured customer success example. That's when they start contributing to other people's success. One very important thing, to note here is that the more people commit, the more you communicate. And I'm going to talk about that in a hot second. But the more they commit, the more they contribute, you should make them feel special. As they walk through this journey from attraction, from lighthouse to port to city, you want to make sure they feel special. They feel that their contribution is being rewarded. So that leads us to another framework, the second framework, which is closeness circles. Can I give a quick thumbs up again? I love it when I see reactions from you guys, because then I know that like it's making sense. Can I get a quick thumbs up? Oh, wonderful thumbs up. Thank you all. Okay. That's when we get to closeness circles. Literally, this is about building closeness. So I'm going to read what I wrote here because I really want to make sure you guys understand this way. Closeness circle is a data-driven communication system to build a stronger sense of identity. So it's data-driven. It's about how we communicate to customers, and it's to build a stronger sense of identity. You know who does that really well? Taylor Swift. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But not right now, but like in her earlier days, she would host special secret sessions for her top influencers, fans, etc. And of course, she did it because these people loved her and it was a way for her to give something back. But she reaped so much benefits from it because these people were massive social media influencers and people would know about secret sessions and they would want to participate in it. So, in a way, she found a way to communicate secretly with people and make them feel a sense of identity, like I'm so special here. And that's an example of how you can do that. And of course, likely no one here is Taylor Swift, but that's an example of like how communication can create or how special things can create. Hi, Balabi. I'm a secret Swiftie. I should say that I don't like Taylor Swift, but I kind of do. Anyway, so building closeness, it's about creating that sense of closeness, of intimacy as people contribute. So the more people contribute, you want to make them feel more at home. And I will give another more universal example. Should you decide to get married tomorrow, like say you found the love of your life, you've been dating someone, and you decided that you want to spend the rest of your life with this person, and um, and I hope that's universal for everybody because I know some people do not want to get married, but just follow me with this metaphor. Would you share a post on social media first? Or would you maybe talk to your mom, your dad, your closest family, your closest friends, and of course to this person, and then maybe you confirm to her, you tell everybody else who's closer to you, and then you tell social media. Like who do you tell first when something relevant happens in your life? So the same logic should follow in your business. You wouldn't post something on social media before you let your team know, before you let your people know, before you let your core users know. So by having a cadence of a communication in which you reward people with information, that's a strategy to build closeness. And that's just one example. So you want to have clarity on how people walk through this journey and how do you communicate with them as they contribute. So here's my metaphor again, from attraction through engagement to commitment. What you can see here is in the beginning people learn about you, everything that you post publicly, and the more they get engaged, the more you communicate deeper and deeper things with them. And your goal is to turn people from consumers to creators, which is at the very center. And as you can see, the bulk of this journey is with engagement, is in the port stage. That's why maybe port like activities like events, content is oftentimes what's most recognized as community. The third framework is journey and life cycle. Finally, last and most important journey framework of today. And in about 8 minutes, I'm going to open up for questions. So bear with me. How can members actively contribute to delivering your core value proposition, and for how long? So many people expect people to be with you forever. And I think that's a mistake. You have to think of in a way almost like a succession planning for users. And that's both valid for user journey. Many people accomplish their mission with their company within a certain period of time. And that's okay as long as you understand that and you keep recycling your users and you give them more opportunities to come back, or maybe you upgrade your services to lengthen, to make your life journey, your user life journey longer. But you should understand, no matter what, how long that journey lasts. So, as users and also as contributors, I'm going to give the example of like I worked at Startup Grind, and my job was expanding it across Africa and Asia Pacific. That was like 10 years ago, which sounds like makes me feel very old. And back then, we would select and train local chapter directors to run our community, our B2B community in different cities. And my job was to find, identify, train these people, and keep expansion going. What I've learned is that the lifetime of a director was in average 3 years. Someone would stay in that role for about 3 years and they had to move on. Some people were odd cases that would stay for 10, but most people, 2.5, 3 years. So we thought about, okay, this is how long they were contributors. They were mostly volunteers. This is how long we're gonna last. So we need to advocate, we need to build pipeline. And that's what you need to think about. In a way, this closing the circles that I just shared is a pipeline. It's a funnel, it's a journey. You can see this in a linear way or from inside out, it's a timeline. And people might stay here longer or not, but you should understand the average length of duration of their contribution, their participation. So The more people contribute, the more they should gain value and the more they should get involved. So it should be a virtuous cycle. And the variable here is success. Repeating what I said before, ideally you want to think about your customer success journey alignment with your contribution journey. So the more successful customers are likely to be your ambassadors, are likely to be your advocates. There may be odd cases of people who are not hyper successful, but they are super vocal. They are still struggling with their business, but they are still using your solution and they are strong advocates. And that's also okay. But ideally, you want the people who are your top advocates, your top ambassadors, to also be your most successful customers. In a way, contributing is a way for them to become more successful. They say that teaching is the best way of learning. Maybe for your users, helping others become successful is the best way of becoming successful in that same way. So another thing that I want to see, and I'm going to share these slides with you all later so that you can reference to this bunch of text that I shared here, is that of course that there is a ratio of maybe 10 to 10% of 100 to 10 to 1%. And these are random numbers, and I base myself in Robin numbers here, but roughly you would have 1,500 people in your network in a ratio to 150 people who will be highly engaged, are these people who are creating content, to 15 people who are core contributors. That's by design because you don't want everybody to be calling themselves an ambassador. And I'm going to share some learnings here that are really important and they are real life learnings. And let me have a sip of water and let you guys read a little bit. So, what I'm about to share is that what I already said. At the initial stages, be mindful of not overwhelming people with information and requests. First, give value and give value first. These are different things. Before doing anything else, first make sure that people use your solution and it's good. And before people contribute, make sure that you have given value. Second, engagement stage, where you have about 10% of those 1,500 in your network who tried your product out. Be mindful not to rush into definitions. I know that like when you have 10% of your users who are like obsessed and love you, it's very, very easy to fall into that trap of like, hey mom, but he said he loved me. I'm marrying him. I met him a week ago. It's very exciting to get into like to meet someone who loves you and tells you that it's so obsessed with you, but you don't know if that's gonna last. Be mindful not to call someone a core user, an ambassador too soon. Once they become top contributors, they become eligible to the what are we conversation. So give them small tasks, give them referral codes, give them opportunities to give a talk, give them anything, but you don't need to rush into calling them your ambassador. I personally differentiate advocacy from ambassadorship. Advocacy is like people at the stage of engagement, this 10%, your top 10% can be your passionate advocates. They can talk about you because they love you. And that's great, but you don't need to rush into a commitment. When they become core contributors, they become your top 1% because maybe that aligns with their customer success journey. Maybe your advocates are people who really love your product, but maybe they haven't achieved success yet. You need them to be successful. You want them to be successful when they become your ambassador so that they're going to tell the right story, so that they're going to help others on that way. So maybe your most successful businesses that have been using your CRM will be sharing their story and then they become your ambassadors. Maybe those people, your top influencers in your media channel will become, or media platform will become your ambassadors. Maybe if you're in a business like Square or POS Solutions, maybe your top selling businesses that have nailed location and value proposition and everything will come to give a talk at your conference that's going to be hosted for your 150 people. What I'm saying is that you should provide both communication, benefits, and responsibilities proportionally to their success and their contribution. Once again, this is pretty straightforward, but let me know if that doesn't make sense, and I can share failure stories of times in which I got too excited about people, and I was like, okay, you are my core contributor now, thank you, and I invited them for a special dinner, and then they were starting to like next week walk into the room like they own the place and actually be arrogant to other people because they felt entitled and happy that they were called core something. That's not necessarily what you want. You want people who will have honored that position. So don't rush into the what are we conversation with people. Give them time to become successful, give them time to learn. And finally, make room for others to take on their roles. As their journey follows, as they accomplish their goals, they might move on, and you want to accept that. As you grow, you're always going to open space for more people to take on new roles, for new members to become top contributors. And some people are insane. Some people go from new to top contributor within a week, depending on your solution, of course. Some people take a year. So don't rush into anything, but also allow people to follow their journey and allow them to go when it's time for them to go. And I quoted this from my book. I will not read it, I'll paraphrase it, but you can find it in my book. But pretty much, the more you grow, the more you make space for new roles within your community. And it's your responsibility to let people flow through these new roles. And naturally, the more people contribute, that sense of ownership increases. So that's actually chapter 17, which is about closing the circles, which is that framework I just presented. Finally, I'm gonna wrap up in 1 minute, guys. Sorry that I'm a little bit late, talking a little bit too much. Bring it all together, make it a system. What I want to share here is very simply a combination of everything I just shared. Here's another quote from my book, that communities would grow like nature, like organically, and it's your responsibility to empower people, trust them, and then let go and let them do their job and let them speak on your behalf. So it always starts with you embracing your people, not as your audience, but as protagonists. It starts with a clear identity, which ultimately requires your clarity on what you stand for and how can you let people speak on your behalf. Finally, second, it's about how understanding what is the job to be done and giving people a clear sense of contribution. What does participation mean? What does contribution mean? What actions identify as contribution? How do you track people as they achieve that? As they achieve those actions, and how do they grow within your company as they do so? So very importantly, contribution must be tracked so that that journey can be tracked, so that top contributors can be identified and can become those kind of like community owners or top contributors or ambassadors. Um, and lastly, make them feel part of something bigger. Reward and reinforce commitment through communication. Make them feel part of it. Have special meetings for them. Have special sessions. And finally, reward, reiterate, and repeat. The best way to get it right is by starting it, is by doing it and learning. And as you start an ambassadorship program, an advocacy program, as you start creating these layers of contribution here, you might identify that, oh shoot, I rushed through it and I called people my ambassador too soon. I actually needed them to do one more task. So maybe you initiate new batches of ambassadors with a more detailed list of tasks, list of jobs to be done. Or maybe you actually find out, oh, I'm asking too much. These people are not, they don't have time. I need to narrow it down. I need to make it simpler. All I want is for my users to forever share a referral code. That's it. I don't want anything else. Oh, actually, I noticed that creating content is really helpful and that really attracts new users. And my users love being on the spotlight and they love being interviewed. So that works out for me. So reward, reiterate, which is fix things around and repeat. Keep doing it until you understand across all steps what leads to success, leading to that idea that community should be at the core of your value creation engine, not just as an accessory. That's it. And for those who asked about my book, I have here, the name is Hacking Communities. For those who speak Portuguese, Reinventando Comunidades. And I think we have 15 minutes for questions. Thank you all.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Liz. Yes, we did have a question about your book and where people could get it. So thank you so much. We've shared a link to it in the comments there. We do have a question from Andre here. I've seen a lot of companies create communities that end up being focused mainly on existing customers. What are the specific challenges of creating communities that span way beyond the current customer base?
Thank you, Andrea, for the questions. As you can see, my conversation was my talk was hyper focused on actually current customers, communities. The reason being that you can, for a community to exist, and I'm gonna share about this in two ways, and I'm gonna go back with the Taylor Swift example because she's the one who really did good at this, at like expanding beyond customer base. But like, I want to explain that the advantage of customer base is that you have control, you have visibility on behavior. And with company business based communities, it's very different than communities in a way, in a sense of like social communities, because some social communities are like based on purpose and shared mission and belonging, but not as much in conditional contribution. Business communities are more based on conditional contribution, like you are a good member as long as you contribute in a certain way. It's harder to do that when people are not in your customer base. So I think that's first why the challenge of targeting people beyond your customer base is not having clear visibility on their behavior. How do you track their behavior? How do you keep that consistent? Now, if you have a good platform or a good way, either it be like on social media, and say that, like, my first question to you, Andrea, would be, who are the people beyond your customer base that are willing to build as a community? Are you talking about your providers? Are you talking about people that you have within your relationship realm that are not consumers or customers? Or are you talking about potential customers and potential consumers? These are two different things. So for the first, I will talk about building your ecosystem strategy is also very relevant if you want to build a relationship with your providers. In the case of Time Left, for example, we have restaurants where we host our people on Wednesdays, and we have a community focused on our partners. And they have specific needs and specific things that we can bring to them. But the important thing is that, like, you want to bring them together in the context of what is useful for them in their business, and in the context of how you want them to contribute to you as an individual. So in a way, you want you, for example, if you want your providers to provide better service for your users, you could create educational session for your provider. So that's one example for like ecosystem building of communities beyond your your customers base. But if you're talking about broader, like building community with your network, which are pretty much the people I want to say outside here in the circle on the network level, um, that pretty much, in my opinion, becomes more like a marketing outreach strategy, like a social media community. And I want to mention like Taylor Swift because she does really good at managing her community of heavy customers, like the people who listen to her, the people who buy her stuff, the people who are signed up to her newsletter, the people who are influencers and run accounts for like Swifties. And she can, in a way, influence those people more closely. And then there are the followers. So I think that the best way for you to influence the followers is by nurturing the creators and the influencers so that you're not the only one talking. And other than that, it becomes social media management strategies on like how to convert people, because ultimately you want to convert people. So I personally don't deal with that type of community as much. I see it as part of your network because I feel that it's harder to keep track. And I'm just giving you my honest answer. I hope I answered your question, Andre. I think I went a long way, and like
There's a
um
follow-up question here as well from Miles. I'll let you read that out and then
in terms
answer
of rolling out
both.
such a program from scratch and a piggybacking of Andre's question, where's the best place to start? New customers, existing? I would focus on existing customers. And as I said, like the reason I would focus, but that depends. Okay, let me step back, take a step back. What is your goal? Because your goal matters here. Um, if your goal is like, in, what my assumption is for any B2B business, your goal is conversion. Your goal is new customers, is new paying customers. I find it is more effective to target your existing customers, and as I said, especially the ones who are more likely to be successful, the ones that are enjoying your business, as your advocates and potentially as your ambassadors. So I would 100%, and that's what I always do. That's what I literally am doing now for my business. I'm always starting from my top users, and I'm nurturing them first. I'm piloting things with them. Then when it works, I spread it out to more. I even sometimes I'm experimenting a referral perks program with my core users right now. And I know that if that works, I'm gonna bring it out to 10,000 people, which is my next level. But first, I'm trying it out with 1,000. So that's my opinion. And the reason for this is because not only you learn, you can fail fast with them, and these people are more forgiving. They're 100% more forgiving. You also get to learn to scale something. We have another question here.
Yep, we got one from Roland.
Ron, when you're building a community that enables others to be successful in their business, how would you build virality in networks? That's I think the $1 million question, Roland. Um, so I wish I would have a quick answer for that. Just how to build virality and network effects. But I actually had a slide that I didn't use in this presentation that pretty much shows, picture this circle here. It shows a slide filled with those circles. They're all little like onions, right, with like layers. And then one center arrow leads to another circle. And pretty much core users start new chapters. And then those chapters start new chapters. So my metaphor is nature, Roland, for this, and we can talk about more practical examples, but I'm going to use the metaphor that I use in my book. Um, Communities are organic systems, like nature, and organic systems grow through a core, like a seed. If you look at dandelion, that fluffy ball seed with like the yellow flower, it grows through those flying seeds, and each seed can carry the DNA for another 7,000, 32,000 flowers. So when you nurture your core users, and I'm saying not just the top 1%, your top 1 and your top 10%, network effects is literally when these people feel so empowered with your community that if one person starts another of your starts another cell, another chapter of your community, that would grow into another one of these. So suddenly 1,500 people at the very minimum ratio would become 3,000. But if you have 10 core users doing that, that becomes 15,000. So network effects is when your core users work, when you're successful with activating your people. And of course, not everybody here is going to be successful. Not everybody here is going to become your advocate. But when you manage to make sure that like maybe 1% of your top users will become your advocates, that's when you can create maybe virality. And I think that there's a lot of correlation between, like, if you talk about strategy, many people here might use LinkedIn because that's the platform for B2B. You know that B2B, LinkedIn's algorithm is very related to people's reaction within your networks in the first hour of posting something. So if you have a very, very captive base of people that you nurtured, and I'm going to give the example, I'm emphasizing so much in core users because you are going to ask people to help you. Virality is when many people take action on something because they feel like doing it strongly, and your goal is to maybe influence people into taking that action. That's really what community is and what virality, when virality happens. So what you want to do is say, I want this content, and I'm going to use the content example because virality relates to content more than anything. I want to make this content fly. You can post it and share it with 10,000 people in your base and say, hey guys, please like and comment. And maybe 8,000 will be like, I've never heard from this person before, or I always hear from this person when they're asking me for something. And that's very, very common in business. Or you have 150 people that you've been nurturing a lot, and you've been nurturing everybody else in general through these 150 people. You've nurtured 150 people in your base. By the way, I'm using these numbers as a ratio. I'm talking about 10%. Maybe you have 2 million users, so I'm talking about 200,000 people. But like, you've nurtured this 10% a lot. They have been creating content that nurtured the remaining 80%, the remaining like 90%. And through this 150%, when you post something and say, hey, can you help me boosting this? These people will do it because you've been nurturing them. It's not like you're that friend who never calls anybody for their birthdays, never goes to their house, never gives them anything, and then suddenly you call them to say, hey, can you help me move my couch? I'm moving furniture. You don't want to be that friend. So I want to say, and I told this the other day in another talk, that community is like your insurance, social insurance policy. You want to have nurtured them when you need them. And this is like a very transactional way of seeing community, but it is like you might not need your people to like a post or to say good things about you in press, but when you do, you want them to be ready. So to the very least, you should nurture people just in case. Does that answer your question? Yeah, apparently it does.
That was a great answer. That was fantastic. I actually have a question. When do you feel is the right time to start a community as a business? Is it ever too early?
Dude, you might have heard this before, but your first 100 people, they say a CEO should interview their first 100 like team members. And if you think the same way about community of customers, your first 100 customers, you could really, first of all, it depends on how validated you are if you found product market fit. If you're pre product market fit, your first 100 customers may not matter that much. But if you are post PMF, your first 100 customers matter the most. And I would say it's never too early. It's easier to start from the beginning. And this is going to sound like cutesy fluff, but it's so real. Community is part of your DNA. If you don't start from the beginning, it's very unlikely you're going to start when you have 1 million people. And it's more transaction when you have 1 million people. If you have 100 people right now who love you, there's maybe 2 who are already your advocates. Start now. It's easier. And then these 2 will be on for the journey with you.
Fantastic. I think that's probably a good place for us to wrap things up, Liz. And really goes back to community being that essential part of your value creation engine. It can't be that tacked on afterthought. It can't be purely transactional. And with that, that's a wrap for our track on distribution strategies as well. Liz, thank you so much for the insights. That I really
Thank you.
love those frameworks and those practical examples. I love the analogies you used, even the Swifty ones. Yes, thank you so much for the great presentation.
I love that even the Swifty ones. That even was well placed there. Thank you, George. Thank you, Pallavi.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you all for being here as well. See you.
All right, very quickly, we're now going to go into a 30-minute break. And as soon as we come back from that break, we're going to be getting into the last and final track for Full Circle 2024. And in this track, we're going to be answering a question that all of you have possibly in your marketing careers heard at least once a day. What's the ROI on that? So stay tuned, and we're going to answer that question in our next track, starting off with a session with Sairam Krishnan on how not to measure your startup's marketing. So we'll see you back here in 30 minutes. Grab some lunch or a snack, depending on wherever you are in the world, and we'll be back shortly.